Welcome, dear students. So once again I am here with your biology class session. We are going to begin, and today we are going to start the new chapter, that is the third chapter. And in the third chapter we'll learn about the plant and animal tissues. So according to the syllabus, our syllabus, we have to understand the different types of plant tissues, the basic structure and functions with examples, and also their role in different physiological processes in plants and animals. So here in this video we'll study more about the plant tissues. Okay, so let's start. See children, since we are studying about the tissues, so let us study the tissues in detail, right? Let us understand what are tissues. See, tissues are also considered as the teams of workers, right? And like in the previous classes you have studied, no, that what is a cell and what are tissues. So let me tell you, a tissue is a group of similar cells performing a specific function. Now the similar types of cells, they constitute a tissue which have their own specific function. Now let us revise once again the relationship between tissue, organ system and organism. See, several tissues together contributing to some specific function inside the body constitute an organ, right? Just like any organ you take, like here it is shown tongue. Okay, so we know that tongue is one of the most important sense organ, right? So tongue has got different varieties of cells. It is constituted with similar cells of different categories, like the epithelial cells, the nerve cells, the muscle cells. So all these cells together has formed an organ. Now many organs acting together to perform a specific life process constitute an organ system. Now take any example of any organ system in any organism. Like if we take in humans and other forms, then take an example of digestive system. We know that digestive system is a complex system, which is a system which is made up of many organs together, no? So that forms an organ system. Okay, now the organ system together constitute the organism. Like in plants, if we see, okay, so plants, the entire plant's body is divided into two organ systems. One which is the root system, the other is the shoot system. So together a complete organism is formed. Now let us learn about the plant tissues. See, plant tissues are basically of two types, means these are broadly classified into two categories. One is the meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue is a kind of tissue in which the cells multiply to form new cells. Okay, whereas the permanent tissue, the other kind of plant tissue is the permanent tissue, which is made up of non-dividing cells and specialized, right? So meristematic tissues are actively dividing cells, they produce new cells, okay? And the permanent tissues, they are non-dividing cells, they are permanent. Now let us learn about the meristematic tissue. The meristematic tissues also we can term as meristem. Okay, they are also known as meristem, and these are found at all growing points of a plant. Wherever the growing points are there in the plants, they are all, the meristematic tissues are located there. Okay, such as the tips of the roots, the stems and the branches. They are also present between the bark and the wood of trees, where it leads to growth in the diameter of the stem. It increases in growth, okay? So forming the diameter of the stem. Now what are the chief characteristics of meristematic tissue? Like we'll study about the cells which are found, which constitutes the meristematic tissues. The cells features are that the cells are small, they are usually cubical, the cell wall is thin and nuclei are large. Then they have no vacuoles. Vacuoles are absent in meristematic tissue. The cells are tightly packed with almost no intercellular spaces, means all the cells are compact. There are no intercellular spaces between them. Okay, and the cells actively divide, adding new cells to the plant. Since they are actively dividing cells, so they keep on adding new cells to the plant for the growth of the plant. New cells thus produced are transformed into mature permanent tissues. Then the meristematic tissue can be classified into two more categories, that is the apical or the terminal meristem and the cambium or the lateral meristem, right? So meristematic tissue is again further classified into two categories, the apical or terminal meristem, and the second one is the cambium or the lateral meristem. Now let us know what are apical meristem. See, this tissue is located near the tips of roots and stems, and also in the growing young leaves near the tips of the stems, such as well as on the tips of the axillary buds. Now let me tell you what are axillary buds. The buds that forms in the axil of the leaf, right? So between the leaf and the stem, the axil formed, the buds grow there. So these growth wherever in the tips of the root or the shoot or the stems, the apical, this meristematic tissue is responsible for it. Now next is the cambium, which is also known as the lateral meristem. This is situated below the bark and is responsible for increase in the diameter of the stem, the thickness, okay. So the growth, the thickness, the increase in the thickness in the diameter of the stem, the cambium is responsible. Now let us come to the permanent tissues. See, first we had studied about the meristematic tissue. Now come to the permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue was the growing tissue, no? The cells were actively dividing, producing new cells. Here permanent tissue are made up of cells which have lost their ability to divide, right? You understood now? So permanent tissue, they don't have that growth, that ability to divide. The permanent tissue they have lost. They take a permanent shape. Since there is no division, there is no dividing cells dividing here, so they take a permanent shape to perform some permanent function. They may be living or dead. Nucleus may be present or nucleus may be absent. Now according to the function performed, the permanent tissues are of three types, children. Please remember, please keep in mind that the permanent tissue based on the function, they are of three types. First one is protective, second is supportive, and the third one is conducting. Now let us know what are protective. How can we say that the permanent tissues, they are protective in nature? See, protective tissue, since these they play in protection, so cells are thick walled, they are found on the surface of the roots and stems and leaves. Examples can be the epidermis of leaves, which secrete a waxy layer, waxy waterproof material. Cork cells in the barks contain another strong waterproof material. You might have seen the leaves, no? The shiny surface of the leaves. The upper, the layer of the leaves, you might have seen that they are shiny in nature, no? Shiny in appearance. So why? Because it is covered with a thick cuticle and on the top a waxy layer, just to provide a kind of protection, no? Like direct surface loss of water through the surface of the leaves, so they protect. Next is the supporting tissue. See, supporting tissue is of several types, okay. First is the parenchyma. Now parenchyma, let me tell you in brief that parenchyma cells which makes the supporting tissues are large thin-walled cells, oval or circular. They store food and provide temporary support to the plants. Next is the collenchyma. In the collenchyma tissue, the cells are elongated and thickened at the corners, okay. They are found in the leaf stalks and helps to support the plant parts. Next is the sclerenchyma tissue. Sclerenchyma is composed of long and narrowed cells, usually dead, develop thick walls due to lignin. Lignin actually it is a complex substance, okay, which is found in the cell walls of the plants. So they develop thick walls due to the presence of the lignin and provide strength to the plant's parts and found in stems and veins of the leaves. Next, we can see here the different the diagrams of the different kinds of the tissues. We can see here, it is displayed here now. In the first part you can see the parenchyma cells, the shape is shown, okay. Then next we have the collenchyma cells. We can see the longitudinal as well as the cross section view of it. Then in the next part we can see the sclerenchyma, okay, longitudinal both and cross sectional view. Next, now we come to the vascular system in plants. Now, let me tell you what is vascular system, children. Since transportation and all other substances are needed to be transported in the plant's body, so there that system which helps in transportation and all, transportation of water and other minerals and other substances. So a vascular system is there in the plants. So the vascular system is also known as the conducting tissue. The conducting tissue may also be known as vascular tissue. Okay, so these are the vascular tissue. They provide a passage for water and dissolved materials to move up and down in the plant. The xylem and the phloem are the two basic types of the tissues which are found in the vascular tissue. Okay, the conducting tissue, we can say they are made up of two types of tissues. One is the xylem vessels, the other is the phloem vessels. Phloem cells, sorry, phloem tissue. Xylem vessels, let us study. They are elongated cells. Their walls are thick and are in the form of tubular passages. Okay, they provide for upward movement of water and dissolved materials absorbed from the soil by the roots to other parts of the plants. Means the main function of xylem vessels serves for, means the main function is to transport the water and minerals in the plant's body. Okay, now since xylem is also a tissue, so every tissue is made up of group of cells. So similarly, the xylem tissue is made up of tracheids and vessels. They are also called tracheary elements, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers respectively. So these are the three different kinds of the cells that makes the xylem vessels. Now we can see what are tracheary elements here. See, these tracheids, no, actually they are made up of elongated dead cells which are placed end to end forming a long tube. Okay, they provide mechanical support. At the same time, they provide mechanical support by developing various types of thickening in their walls. Next, we can see here the xylem vessels. The xylem vessels also we can say tracheae. These are long tube-like structures that are made up of elongated cells, elongated, long, tubular, which are meant for transporting water and dissolved minerals. Next, we can see the xylem parenchyma. This xylem parenchyma, actually, these consist of living parenchyma cells which serves the storage of food, mainly sugar and starch. In the plants, the prepared food is sugar and starch, okay, and also helps in the conduction of water and minerals. Now, you can see the figure here, the shapes of the tracheids. You can see the xylem elements here, okay. So, this is the figure, it is displayed on the screen here. Now, let us come to the phloem part. Okay, so another conducting tissue, another vascular tissue is the phloem tissue, okay, and the phloem cells provide a passage for the downward movement of food manufactured in the leaves. Means as xylem performed the function of transporting the water and minerals in the plant's body, okay, according to their need, similarly the phloems perform in conducting the downward movement of food manufactured in the leaves to various parts of the plants. They also provide for the upward movement of the prepared food at the same time towards the growing leaves. Now we can see that the phloem consists of how many different kinds of cells we can see. The phloem consists of sieve tubes, the companion cells, the parenchyma cells and the phloem cells. The figure is also displayed here, children. These are the different cells which are found in the phloem tissue. Okay. Now, see here a summary is given in short, just in brief you can just for your memorizing and all, the summary is given. If we start from the beginning, like summary of the plant tissues, you can see here that the plant tissue is broadly classified into two categories. Let us go for a quick revision here. Okay, what all points were discussed. Now we'll go for a quick revision here. The summary is given here. Plant tissues, they are broadly classified into two categories. What were they? Meristematic and permanent. So meristematic were actively dividing cells and they are found at all growing points. Okay. Now permanent, they are non-dividing cells. They are particular shapes and permanent function. They have a permanent function. Okay. Now further, the permanent tissue is divided into three subcategories. What are they? Protective, simple, that is, next is the supportive, and the third one is the conducting. Okay. Now, supportive is further classified into three categories. One, the parenchyma, okay. Second one is the collenchyma, and the third one is the sclerenchyma. See, the features are also given in brief here, okay, side by side. Next, the conducting tissue. Just now we discussed about the conducting tissue. The conducting tissue is further classified into two categories. Means we have in the plants, there are two different kinds of tissues which play the conducting part, okay. And this conducting tissues are xylem, which is water conducting tissue, and the phloem, which is the food conducting tissue, okay. And then the different cells are present in these kind of tissues. We can see here the tracheids, the xylem parenchyma, okay, the xylem vessels and all. Whereas in the phloem we can see the sieve tubes, the companion cells, and the phloem fibers or the phloem parenchyma cells. Now, today we wind up the session here since we have already discussed the plant tissues. In the next video we'll be discussing about the animal tissues. So I would request to go through all the parts which were described, okay, which were explained, and then in the next video we'll be there with the concluding part of the chapter. So thank you, my dear students. If you have any doubts, once again you can contact me, okay. Till then, keep yourself healthy and stay safe.